welcome to Corner Comics, your mostly weekly comic book reading club. My friends and I get together, we share a couple of comic issues with each other, and then we get together and we talk about those issues. And I accidentally had the audio intro from another TV show or another podcast just start playing in the background. So
Oh,
it's
good.
been 47 episodes. I suppose it was time for a mistake. But anyway, gentlemen, how are you doing on this lovely Sunday?
Groovy.
Groove.
Absolutely and utterly groovy.
I am a mysterious and serious, so just check the experience.
A Mr. E, possibly?
Mr. E.
Yes.
I don't know what you mean.
That's a reference to one of the books we're going to talk
Other
about this
comments.
Oh,
this
okay.
this week.
I thought you might have been talking about a drug. I had to be careful. Can't be associating myself with such nonsense.
I don't know what you mean, but
Yeah.
what do you mean, perchance?
All right, so where can people find you guys on the interwebs?
You're going to find me on the Instagram. I was about to say interwebs and Instagram. At EM_MAN_YOU_EL. Also, EmmanuelTheStory.com. And do not forget, cornercomics.net. We will see you there.
Is this the pointing episode?
It
I
is.
don't know. You can find me. Where can you find me? You can find me at blacksuperherofan.com. You can also find me at walrus.org. That's WALLRUSS.org. You can find me on Twitter at walrus. It's at WALLRUSS. And as always, you can find me here at cornercomics.net, reading, writing, laughing, and critiquing.
Very nice. All right, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at Berkoff, BERKOUGH. Generally, I'll handle a lot of the Corner Comics stuff using the hashtag Corner Comics. So if you want to talk about us on the social media, go ahead and use that hashtag. So we got 6 issues this week. We're back to the 2-issue per person format. I'm bringing 2 that are independent books. Star Trek Voyager, Seven's Reckoning, issue number 1. I think this is going to be a 5-issue miniseries, if I'm not mistaken. And my second pick this week is Penultiman number 2. Even though I know some people here don't particularly care for the book, I think it's getting better. Russ, which 2 books do you have this week?
By DC, I have Dark Knight's Death Metal, Infinite Hour Extreme. And I'll get into more of that a little later. And I also have an Image comic called Bonehead, which you can read online. And as always, we'll have a link in the show notes.
Manuel?
Well, you can make mine Marvel. I have 2 Marvel issues, Shang Chi, issue number 1, 2020 version, and Symbiote Spider-Man, King in Black, issue number 1. This says 2021, issue number 1.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a 5-issue miniseries too, and like a mini Spider-Man event that's going on. I almost bought the first issue. I'm having trouble following all of the books that are supposed to be in that. I didn't want to get sucked into another 20-issue Marvel crossover event. So
They're so good at it.
they are. They really like. Damn it! I need to buy this one now. All right, so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. The first issue this week, Star Trek Voyager 7's Reckoning. The reason that I picked this is I was pleasantly surprised. IDW is actually doing the Star Trek brand some justice, and Voyager is probably my favorite series out of all of the Star Treks. So I was kind of excited to see what this brought to the table. And
Voyager?
yeah, Voyager.
Who knew?
So anyway, what did you guys think of this book?
Emmanuel?
All right. So immediately, right out of the gate, I want to compliment the art. The cover was nice and bright, and it showed both Janeway and Seven of Nine on the cover, which is a very um, not just because of women, but just because of the art, very attractive cover. It just pulls you in because it's so bright. The two faces, two iconic faces, if you're into the Star Trek lore, and the story I really liked because one thing that Star Trek does really well is encapsulate different cultures. Like, all right, what if? What if this alien race had this as their main steeple in their culture, where we esteem, for the most part, religion and like the Abrahamic religion, other cultures and other civilizations may esteem stories. Like you are the protagonist, which came about time and time again in this story. So this alien race, one of the zealots of this alien race, really esteems stories, and he's saying he's a protagonist, and it's really great. I really appreciate that different perspective. Something that is just very imaginative, very creative. So I really like this issue because of that alien. Uh, the art was good. The plots were great. Subplot overthrowing this hierarchy of government. I enjoyed it. I'd say this is a buy. Actually, I enjoyed it that much.
Well, that's
Okay. I liked the art and I liked the banter. Whoever did the writing here really knew how because I also watched the Voyager series. It really felt like they know what they're talking. IW is good at that. They know how to get into the whatever their subject du jour is. They're well researched, and the writers really tend to have an affinity for the work of that universe, and that shows here. So, if you're a fan of Voyager and Star Trek in general, I think this is good and it's worth your time. However, I'm not sure that if you're not a fan of Star Trek,
if this
that
gets
is
you
much
into
here
it.
for you, right? This is and IDW picks things that they're fans of, right? You pick Power Rangers, you pick these or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You pick things that the fans can come and get their additional fix. So its purpose is to draw those fans, not create new ones. I don't feel like this would create new fans.
Right.
Uh, but for the fans, this is very good fan service, right? This is you feel like all the characters are behaving in alignment with who you know them to be from watching the show. So I enjoyed that part of it, right? No one was out of character. Even the sly remarks from nameless Federation people who happened to be there. Uh, and there's one thing that was I found interesting to me is that Seven of Nine empathizing with another race seemed a little out of because Seven of Nine is all business, baby.
Yeah.
All right. For her to be the point of view character that shows some affinity, some caring, I felt was a little much. Stretching it, let's just say that. But obviously, she's going through her own level of emotional maturity, and she did in the show. But I felt like her being that character, and maybe there's a point to that. I'm not sure that was in alignment with who I knew her to be. Everybody else, yes, like everybody else, but not necessarily her.
Yeah.
And I felt there was a lot here. But the good thing normally about Star Trek is they tell your story in one. This one, the show, the thing is over, and you got a good piece of the arc, but the story isn't done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's not in alignment with my expectation of a Star Trek experience, right? Because normally, every time you sit down and watch a Star Trek episode or movie, there's a completion at the end, right? There's no completion here. And I granted this is a different medium, etc. But I'm like, I would have liked for it to be done, like tell me the story. But maybe comics, there's more to be had here. There's more to learn. I give this a solid read. I do not give it a buy uh, because it's not for everyone and because they didn't give me, I felt like a worthy ending, like an ending, even if it's not an ending of the whole thing. Like they didn't give me enough a punch at the end as much as I would like. So
Okay.
I give it a solid read.
Yeah, I think part of that is to get you to buy all four issues. for the miniseries is clearly written as a trade, right? Um, I think it's interesting. I didn't really think about Seven's character until you mentioned it. Um, so this takes place in or around season 5. It's after she comes on and is just because Ensign Wildman is here, and she, I think, dies at some point in season 6. So this has to take place around 5, and I actually agree with you. I don't think she would be as empathetic at this point in the overall story. But
Mhm.
that being said, like the Borg culture is like the ultimate socialist environment, right?
Yeah.
And all members of the collective are taken care of to a certain extent. Um, so I feel like that's maybe where she's coming from. Like there's clearly a cast of people in this society or in this race that are not clearly not taken care of. They're not given the tools that they need. They're not, they're looked down upon as inferior, which is foreign, I think, to the Borg perspective of here is the collective. Everybody serves, the purpose of uh, assimilating new technology and cultures and stuff. So maybe
Yeah,
that's where it's coming from.
when she was talking about the uniformity and the efficiency, like it's not efficient for you to have two classes. I don't think she's necessarily champion and trying to campaign for his plot necessarily, just the efficiency of what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish. Because after all, she's 7 of 9 tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01.
Right.
So
Look at
if
that.
I'm reading it, I'm reading it.
Here's your Trekkie badge. You get to
Right.
you get to have that now.
Thank you.
Ching.
But like I think her whole thing is the uniformity, the we are as one. There's no one person apart from the collective.
Yeah.
So to see that there's a cast that's outcast, there's a group of people that have been outcast, that is, yeah, she won't stand for that.
Well, I don't know if she won't stand for it. I mean, it's like, well, it's not our responsibility to be involved in that. I just think it's inefficient. That's all. You know what I'm saying? And if she doesn't really care, then who is the caring person in this? And she's the only caring person. You know what I mean? That was that.
Couldn't have been Tuvok. It could not have been Tuvok. I agree.
Tubok would fight for the ideals because that's how he rose.
Yeah.
But no one really cares about him, which I found was interesting.
All right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the next issues. Maybe we'll jump on like issue 4 or something and conclude it.
If you want.
All right. My next issue, unless anybody has any final thoughts on Star Trek, my next issue is Penultiman, issue number 2. I originally picked this up, obviously, because I'm sort of into this series and have been since issue 0. I picked and put on issue 1. I wanted to see what happened with his android counterpart, and I was really curious to see if there are any character changes that are going to happen, because the one thing I think this comic does do well is it does kind of subvert some of the expectations that you have for a Superman-like character. I think I was pleasantly surprised with the villain of the story, who's now in prison from the last issue. Um, but yeah, the main character, I don't know. There's a lot of internal monologue. What do you guys think?
Emmanuel.
I'll go before you give your opinion. Let me go. All right. So, Penultimate, I really appreciated the introspection here. This character is so powerful, possibly the most powerful on this planet. He's not native to this planet, So he's kind of like a Superman type, but he's so very powerful, yet he wrestles with so much inadequacies. To have this character that has a godlike power or capabilities, but yet still he feels like he can't live up to his parents or his creators, just live up to the standard that they have. And he's doing all these miraculous feats, saving the world time and time again. But this internal monologue is he is a little boy inside, and it's very very interesting to see that. It doesn't make me dislike him. I think it's done, I personally think it's written in such a way to where it's not necessarily endearing, but I'm looking at it just based off of fact. This character is fucked up. This character is going through a lot of inadequacies, yet he can bench press a mountain. He can do all these magnificent things, and he has a stand-in, um, fill in for him for amount of time, and then come back. And his it's kind of like the whole Spider-Man thing when Doc Ock took over his body. He did it better than him, so that further makes him even more inadequate. Like, oh, I couldn't have done this, or I did this for a reason. I was playing down my alter ego for a reason. This was good. I really appreciated this issue because it gave a lot of introspection to the character itself, who kind of piqued my interest when we had it on last time. So I liked it. The art was but the plot and storyline, the introspection, it sold it for me. This is a solid read.
Russ?
Okay. The art is okay. Nothing terrible, nothing to write home about. When you had, okay, so this guy has all the powers, right?
Yeah,
He's got all the powers. He's not just Superman. No,
yeah, he's
that's
Dr.
just like this little bit of his powers. He's got all the powers, full spectrum of powers, right? He has no body who can beat him, no challenges, right? Which is already to me bad. When you got a person of that level of power, you need someone that can stand up to him. And he beat his Lex Luthor in like the first halfway through the first book. There's nobody to stand up to him, and they're setting him up for a psychotic break in which he's going to murder the planet. Right? There's nobody for him to fight, right? He's really just mopping up stuff, right? There's nobody really a threat that necessarily requires. We can have Bat Penultiman can handle all these challenges. We don't need Super Penultiman to do this, right? There's nobody for him to really fight. Why is he even there? I guess he's a beacon of whatever, but when you think of a Superman book, Superman has somebody who's got to be worth fighting, something that requires Superman to be there. Otherwise, it's not quite so interesting, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some stories here and there. This guy's got nothing, right? There's no alien armadas coming. There's nobody coming from a different dimensions. There's not anti-penultimans from his own world. There's none of that. He's just beat them, he's fighting Batman level people. So in that respect, not interesting. Second, we already know he's going to break bad and kill people. And who can stop him? There's nobody in this entire universe that can stop him. He's broken, right? We already know this, right? He's not fixing himself, right? He's not getting help. And now he's feeling worse and worse, and something's going to upset him, and he's going to destroy a whole bunch of people and then feel worse again, right? If I was just thinking, if I wasn't caught up in my own stuff, I would have killed these million people. He's not interesting. He's more like Billy Batson with the power of Shazam, but with no Superman to look at for how to be. Right? So if Billy Batson was trying to decide, and he was the first one in his own universe, and there's no Superman, not even in the comic book, and maybe it is in the comic book, and it looks like Billy Batson created a secret identity of himself based on him reading a Superman comic, when you look at it that way, right?
Right.
It's like a boy created his whole life, and he doesn't have to say Shazam. He just is all mental, right? He can turn into whatever he wants because he's got all the powers. But he never really grew up. He never got over his parents. He doesn't seek help. He doesn't talk to anyone. And who knows how long he's been there, right? And so he's, that in and of itself does not bode well. But I just don't find him interesting. It's like a boy in the powers of a god who just having CW problems, right?
He's emo Superman.
Yeah, he's emo Superman. He probably never has sex because he doesn't look like he's 12 still on the inside, right? So he's an emo Superman with no relationships, no friends that have ever been shown in the history of these books in issue 0 and issue 1. Nothing there. So I'm thinking, what is interesting about this guy? Nothing.
I like the internal conflict personally.
Okay. But as a comic book, I require more.
Okay.
And he's not delivering. I need a threat that requires the true powers of Penultimate. And we've been through issue 0, issue 1, and issue 2, and nothing exists in this universe, apparently, that can stand up to him. Even in the future, when he popped up to the future, nobody could beat him there either.
Right.
So what the hell? You know what I'm saying? I'm not, okay, how much does this book cost? I'm really not trying to pay money for a CW emo Superman who doesn't even fight anybody worthwhile.
I think this book is $2.99 or $3.99.
Yeah, that's not worth $3. No, no, $3 for the graphic novel that encompasses the first whatever. But no, so I'm gonna say this is a pass. Uh, I believe you guys are playing on the potential of the series. I think what it actually delivers is at best a read. So I'll give it a read minus and a
Okay.
pass plus, somewhere in between there.
Okay. That's fair. I mean, I do like the internal conflict. I think that that's sort of interesting. If you have a character that has no external um, villains or anything like that, like he is going to be his own worst enemy.
Yeah, but I
Did you
don't mind
like?
internal conflict. I just need somebody else to fight. Superman can have an existential crisis, but he still got to punch somebody,
Did
right?
you like Brandon Routh's Superman movie? I think it was Return of Superman. Superman Returns.
It wasn't great. I mean, it was
Okay,
great in what he could
it's true to
do.
form, Dan.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But you watch it because it's Superman, because he continues those other Superman movies. So I watched it the one time.
The
I
reason why I
didn't
brought
hate.
that up is
Yeah,
because it's similar to this in that it wasn't a lot of aggressive. It was all passive powers. He just prevented some things. There was no real um, powerhouse fight or anything. It was more
so
internal.
I don't mind an emo super character. I just think that the emo super character should still be put in context as being a super character. If Superman was the real Superman had an emo moment, he's still fighting crime all over the world, right?
Right, right.
This guy ain't doing that, right? If the real, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying is emo is a portion of it. Like there was a book I think we did last week where there's a whole bunch of relationship problems like friends or whatever, right?
Mm,
But there was
Yeah.
nothing else. It was like this is part of this is the garnish. This is the seasoning of the meat, but you got no meat.
Okay.
That's what I think this book is. It's got decent seasoning, and I'm not saying that the concept is not interesting, but it's just seasoning. Where's the meat here, right? Where is the overarching plot? What are we moving forward? Where's the supervillain waiting in his chance to come back and take over? Where is the true foil for Penultiman other than his own immaturity? Now, if his own immaturity took over, maybe we got something, but the own maturity is taking over. We need the other version of him. We need to shock the grown folks Penultimate into existence. And
Okay.
maybe he does that, and maybe his own, and maybe this whole book is about you are your own worst enemy. But that's not interesting,
Okay.
not by itself. So anyway, that was my final thought.
All right. Man, you got anything else?
no,
All
it
right.
has all been said.
Okay. Moving on. Rush, your first book of the week.
Yes, Dark Knights, Death Metal, Infinite Hour Extreme. This is a Lobo issue, probably written and designed by Lobo, drawn by Lobo, in the Infinite, in the Dark Metal, whatever. This is the Lobo book that you would want to read if you at all like Lobo, right? This is everything you could think of, all the things you would like about Lobo, and add on to that, the Batman who frags. Let's get into it. What do you guys think?
Manuel.
The main man, Lobo. I can't read this issue or read any of his word bubbles without having it in his voice. who did his voice? It was some. I think it was Justice League. Young
Well,
Justice. Young Justice did a version of Lobo, and I just hear that version in my head. Keezy film, like just the the voice, the tone. This was great. The art, the art was quintessential DC, detracting nothing from the story, giving you everything you need, shadows and lighting, all that, just DC all the way. Um, the fact that it opens up in a bar and everyone's dead and massacred and he's begging for practically begging for a drink, but the server can't serve him because he's ripped their arms off. Quintessential Lobo. Like this was great. I definitely appreciate this version of Lobo. um, at the end it really kind of surprised me because are we going to have a Lobo world like we have a Bizarro world? I didn't know I wanted that until now. Like, this is you're gonna see a Lobo version of every character. Lobo Wonder Woman, Lobo Superman. We already have Lobo Batman, who is the baddest of the bad because he
He's
has
the
a healing factor, and he's Batman. Come on, there's no
yeah,
stopping him.
the Bruce Wayne of whatever universe that is that the Batman Who Frags comes from.
Mm,
Um, it seems like however, he's synthesized the Zarian. Is it Zarian or
I think so.
Zarnian.
Zarnian? Uh, like synthesized that DNA to be injected to the entire Justice League. That's crazy. Um, I did like this book. I'm confused as to who exactly it's for, though. Um, I feel like the whole death metal, Dark Knight death metal thing, like I feel like if you were to sit in the writer's room while they were coming up with the concept for this, there's one guy that's really high, and he's sitting there going, "What if death metal was a force in the universe?" And they're like, "See, Johnny's got the right idea. We need to do that. Let's print that. Let's make that a whole run of books." Uh, and I don't know. It's a weird concept for me. Uh, but you just kind of have to go with it, I guess.
Just like a Deadpool book.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
So I don't know. The Batman Who Frags is really cool. I like the concept. I like um, the way that his uniform is. I like the dialogue that's in this. It's kind of a fun ride. I really wish that Hawkman was some type of metal version of himself, though, because I feel like that's out of place. Like, well, you're the keeper of the death metal, or the protector of the death metal. Like, it should
I,
be.
I want to say something about that.
All right.
Uh, the, this is the reason why. This Lobo universe actually only exists inside the death metal.
Okay.
So everybody he's interacting with outside of that is the normal universe we know. But he created because the death metal allowed him to create a Lobo verse. Right. So that's why everybody is Lobo in that universe because he created it as such. But outside in the universe, we know that Hawkman he spoke to is not Loboized.
Well,
You have to get a story within.
maybe not Lobo Eyes, but like all the other characters for this whole run, I feel like we're all have like the death metal uh, force, or yeah, whatever it is that like the death metal entity or power, or like. So I don't know. I feel like Hawkman should have had some cool death metal version of himself be the protector of the death metal, right? Like,
No, I think all these characters we're talking about uh were excerpts of Lobo creating the Lobo verse. So you have a part where there's a Wonder Woman, death metal, whatever. He
okay,
rewrote her origin for that low verse, and then later on you see, or earlier you see a Superman one. These are excerpts of him rewriting the universe to fit him, but they're still in that pocket universe.
okay.
The only people outside of the pocket universe in this story are obviously Lobo, the Batman Who Frags, Lex Luthor, Hawkman, and Brainiac. They're outside of that universe. Everybody else is inside the pocket universe.
What about the is it Solomon Grundy?
Oh yeah, that's Solomon Grundy. Okay, so but Solomon
he's
Grundy, Black Monday, yeah. So that's a Batman version of Solomon Grundy.
Right.
Now you already know the evil Batman. That's not the evil Batman created, or the Batman universe. So there's Batman versions walking around, but Hawkman is the original Hawkman.
Okay.
Right. So this is, for example, the fact that you see a Loboized Batman, right, or whatever, that Batman has infiltrated every possible hero. There's a Batman Flash, there's a Batman Atom, there's a Batman, all the villains. There's probably a Batman Brainiac. Those are existing. This is the problem in the overarching story,
Right.
which you can care about or not, because
Right.
this is sort of a one and done. So you're going to see those, but the Loboized versions are strictly inside the Lobo universe.
Right.
A pocket universe that Lobo has created, where he rewrote everybody's story, including Batman's and Wonder Woman's and Superman's and everybody else that he just wanted to, because he think finally this is the universe that it should be, right?
Yeah.
The question is, should a Lobo Batman be able to beat Lobo?
Yeah.
Because he said it's still Batman in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I think
so. The fact that Lobo won or kind of won was kind of great. But I want to see if you caught the Easter egg. Dennis Cowan is the artist. Do you know who Dennis Cowan is?
Yeah, but only for the last part, right?
Okay. But there's a point to that too. But do you know, what do you know about Dennis Cowan, like some of the work he's done? Like mostly in the Milestone universe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you look at the last page where everybody is breeding Batman, notice you'll see the very last page, you'll see a Lobo icon.
I see it.
Right?
Okay.
You see the entire Justice League, but you see a Lobo icon. That is just, only he would put that in there, right? Because he drew that, right? So I thought that was a great Easter egg for those of us who look for it. Like Lobo created his universe, he also created a Lobo icon, which means he respects icon, which is interesting. So I think this was just about the fun, the dialogue, the action, the daring them to write these kind of characters. I think this was just a fun book, and I thought everyone should enjoy it the way I did. That's why I picked it.
Yeah.
So
it is a fun book. I'd say it's a read, not a buy though. For me.
Emmanuel, read, buy, or pass?
Highly enjoyable read. I do have a question though.
Okay.
In this universe, everyone's smoking cigars.
In the Lobo universe?
Yes.
Yes.
They're going to run out of cigars.
No, they don't. Because
really quickly.
They're going to make someone create them for them. Come on, now this is Lobo. In the Lobo universe, there's probably a Lobo, somebody who creates cigars and frags anybody who tries to stop him, and he gets paid because Lobo likes to get paid. Right. You want these freaking cigars? They're fragtastic. You're going to pay for them. Right. There's a Lobo creates cigars. You bastard. This is, if you love Lobo, though, I think this is a buy. It's a one of. It gives you everything you could ever want about Lobo. If you're a Lobo fan, I think it gives you everything. It gives you so much Lobo, and it gives you a Batman Lobo, which you just have to think about, right? Like, who's the mainest man of them all? If Lobo is the main man, right? Who's the mainest man of them all? Or I'm going to quote from the book, the Batman man.
Yeah.
You can't get this anywhere. This is just fun even to reread. I just think everyone, this is just, you hand it to somebody and they don't have to know anything or really understand it. They just have fun. And I think this book does that, and it gives good art to boot.
Indeed.
But okay, all I get is reads. I'll roll with that. Any final words before we move on?
No.
Okay. My next book is called Bonehead. It is by Image Comics. It takes place in a futuristic world or semi-futuristic world where everyone walks around wearing VR helmets. That's it. Everybody got a helmet. They call it your Bonehead, I think. And you don't really see anybody's face otherwise, except maybe a cop. But everybody wears a helmet in this universe, and it takes place probably, shall we say, post-apocalyptic, or maybe no apocalypse happened. I don't know.
Post-corona. Everybody got a mask.
Post-corona. Okay. Right. Because if you can see where you're going and still have a VR helmet, wouldn't you wear it? Right? Especially if you could personalize it, have the experience you want. I think everyone would. I think this is what we're looking for. right? Anyway, that's what I have to say about it. What do you guys think?
Manuel.
Oh
Sure.
shit.
All right. This was fun. This guy, the main character, what is his name? 56? His name isn't 56, right? He just has a 56 on
I think that's what they
his helmet.
call him. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
56A or
I just call
something.
him Bonehead, but I guess everyone has one, but I just still call him Bonehead.
He's he's good. He's not very talkative, which is a stark contrast from characters like this. Like you would have internal dialogue at least, but with him, you don't. You just have multiple, just action. Um, he is a to me he's kind of a Spider-Man-ish figure in that he's the main character. He's doing physical things, but minus, like as I mentioned before, minus the dialogue and even internal dialogue, which makes him interesting. I want to know more about him. So I would definitely get to the next issue. I would clamor to read issue number 2 because I have more questions about him than I have answers. And he seems like an enjoyable character. He's wearing the traditional superhero colors like green, not green, red and blue. So just about every superhero quintessential superhero, wears the red and blue. So you can tell he's a good guy. He even stands up for somebody that he doesn't have to. But I'm interested to see how good, how far he goes into his morals, if he stands for anything at all, and just what happens to him. So I definitely say this is a buy just because I really want to read issue number 2. So solid pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is. I want to highlight the art because I really enjoyed just how well it was composed and like the way in which the colors were done and the figures stand out. There's a lot of detail. It's just a really well done book in that regard. It kind of reminds me of like an Aeon Flux episode because you're in this futuristic world and there's a lot of stuff going on, but not a whole lot of it's explained. They just kind of throw you in and like, well, just you have to suspend disbelief. This is the way this shit works, and you just kind of along for the ride. Uh, but I like that. I thought it was really good. I don't really understand what it is that he stands for, though. I feel like you're not really given a reason for him to be like a superhero or the hero of the book. Um, I think this is only 4 issues too, right, Russ? The whole thing is like one trade paperback.
I believe so, but I'm not sure.
So I think that that's revealed in further issues. Um, I love the designs of the helmets and the outfits. The even the cops look really cool, right? They have this, the gladiators, I think is what they're called. Um, let's see, yeah, the gladiators. There's one panel where it outlines like all of the different tech that they have that they carry with them, but they have a very sort of I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Sort of like colonial um, look, like English Imperial Navy, from the 1700s. Like that's the way their outfit looks,
But teched up.
but all teched up, yeah. Um, so yeah, I thought it was a fun ride. It's kind of a cool world to get lost in. I don't really know what the hell's going on. I don't really care. You know what I mean? It's parkour with high tech. Um, yeah, it's kind of cool. It was an interesting pick. I probably would not have picked this up myself. I may have looked at the cover and been like, "Oh, it's kind of cool," but not have read it. So I appreciate you bringing it because I did enjoy it. Um, I would say this is a read. The trade paper is probably a buy. Um, but this issue is free on Image.com, and I think the whole series is part of Comixology Unlimited. So if you have that, you can read this for free or as part of your subscription.
But you can also read. We'll put a link in the show notes. You can read the first issue right now
Yeah.
on Image Comics website. So if you want to see what we saw, uh, take a look.
All right. Um, Manuel, your first book.
My first book is Shang Chi, Marvel's Shang Chi, issue number 1. This is a Bruce Lee type. Back in the day, where a lot of characters were not a character, yeah, a lot of characters were created based off of the boom of Bruce Lee and the fascination, Western fascination with martial arts at the time. Let me know what you guys think about this issue, number 1.
Russ?
Okay. Um, I found the world more interesting than the main character. First, I want to say I found the sister more interesting, but I find the world more interesting than the main character. I didn't really take to him. Seemed like a nice enough guy, but not anyone that I really need to be following. Like I need to see what he does next. Because I don't really think he, I didn't really bring that in this book. But the idea of this world, I found to be quite interesting. Dragons, where this all came from, how it started, the lore of it. Uh, uh, I like that. And the different factions, those were interesting. And I like those different, I like the colors. Different factions all had their own color. And that story of how we got to whatever the end of this issue is, I find that to be interesting. And if it was not a Shang-Chi book, I would have found it interesting based on this story and the presentation of it. Uh, Shang-Chi, not bad, did a couple of funny, fun things. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying his skill. I think he can actually beat Iron Fist, which is a whole other conversation. But the story here, like if this was a movie and it wasn't Shang-Chi, it was just some dude, I would still watch it because the story of all of this is pretty much the basis for a lot of these kind of movies that we've seen in the past. I think so. In that respect, the art is good, not super amazing, but it definitely conveys what it needs to convey very well. The story is not in any way hindered. In fact, I think it is augmented by it, but there are just some parts where there's not a lot of detail because certain people are important. I didn't really like that as much, but you got to get this book out. Uh, but I enjoyed it. I think it's a solid read.
Yeah. So I feel like Marvel must have some type of internal style guideline because this feels like a Marvel book, right? It
Yeah,
has like the same uh, aesthetic feel that other Marvel books of right now have. Um, this is clearly a soft reboot leading up to the movie next year, right? Like the whole idea of this is to get people interested in that movie when it comes out. Um, I didn't really find it all that interesting, um, but I feel like they've sort of depowered him a little bit because there's I feel like just recently there was times where or as early as like 2012 or 2013 where he had like the ability to create doubles of himself and like
yeah,
all kinds
just
of
human.
crazy powers. This he's like more depowered, and like I said, it's like kind of like a soft
Well,
reboot.
I feel like the original Shang-Chi was always just a martial arts expert, and that was enough.
Yeah,
Like, not just the fighting, but the zenness of it and the control of his inner self and inner monologue and all of those things. The discipline. I think that to me is the essence of Shang-Chi. And there were times where you try to power him up, but I didn't believe that was that. That's when I believe they went off the rails. And I think this is the essence of what Shang Chi is. Shang Chi is a peaceful dude that kicked the ass of 50 people in the room, right? Like if he had the Captain America, Shang Chi Captain America could kick ass, right?
Right.
Falcon Captain America, no. But Shang Chi Captain America, that's your ass if you messing or step in the room with him. So I like that there's only a few martial arts characters that can stand among the gods or the Avengers and probably even stop the Hulk, right? Somehow, right?
right.
Maybe hit a pressure point in his baby finger, whatever. Shang-Chi is one of those characters. So I think you dilute it or take away from his essence by giving him powers. I
Okay.
think Shang-Chi is one of the one characters that must always be martial arts and focus based, always, in order to
Yeah,
be truly him. But that's my opinion.
I
That's a,
picked
well,
this.
that's a good argument. Yeah.
I picked this because I really knew next to nothing about Shang-Chi. Knowing that the movie's coming out next year, what is it, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Marvel's Phase 4, I really want to be well versed in the Marvel characters before they hit the screen. That
Yeah.
I
way
know
I
the
get to
feeling.
know those little subtle remarks and who's related to who in what way and how they connect. So in reading this book, I found it was essential because I didn't know anything. I will also, even though I know about um, Bruce Banner's cousin, I'm still gonna up my reading on the Incredible Hulk or She-Hulk
Be
because
careful you don't get the funny one
oh yeah, when she's kind of
talking
more
to the camera.
feral. Oh yeah,
No, when she's talking to camera, there was a whole I forgot who redid her, where she was like,
she
it was
breaks the
more
fourth wall.
comedy. So, yeah, he breaks the fourth wall like
Ah,
like even on the cover. Stay away from those. But she looks great.
okay.
It's John Byrne, I think. That John Byrne run, she broke the
Mhm.
fourth wall all the damn time, and it just pissed me off. But she looks so incredible in the art.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. Certain comic book fans or certain Marvel fans, they want to go that route. They want to know more. Others just want to be entertained with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and stick to that. That's not my cup of tea. I want to do some back
Yeah.
reading. Let me know the dynamics of this character, the depth. That way, if something is thrown my way, I get to appreciate it and understand it more.
So
Uh,
I put in the notes. I'm really curious to see because the Marvel movies do really well in China, right? That's I think 60% of the income that they get from the movies is from the Chinese market.
Oh,
Um, I'm really curious to see how well this does in China because
uh,
I want to see if it's received or if the reception is that hey, uh, the nation of China or uh, whatever has their own superhero, or if it's interpreted as a Western take on what we think a Chinese superhero should be. Um, yeah, I'm really curious to see how well it does.
well, there's a lot of movies that come over from China that are super duper big blockbusters. Like they look amazing. Well, they look, the kind of what like a good Avengers movie would look like. All of that action, all of that CGI, all of that. There's a lot of great movies that cross the pond this way for those who have an appetite for it. So it makes sense that they would be looking for more of that, a Western version of more of that over there. There's just, I mean, even if I go, what is it? What is the one where uh, it's like a comedy where they have kung fu, but it's basketball or something like that, or volleyball? What
Oh,
is it?
Shaolin Soccer.
Kung
Yeah,
Fu
when
Hustle.
you look at the CGI or kung fu, when you look at the CGI over the topness, right? That's crazy to me. I love that CGI over the topness, right? But they do bigger stuff than that. They get really magical. They get really interplanetary. You can find a lot of those movies if you look for that kind of movie. I don't know if they sell well over here, but I find them. So it makes sense to me that Marvel movies, which are event movies, would do well over there.
Yeah,
That being said, I can't say I love the book, but I like the setup of it. So
yeah,
I can't encourage you to buy it. I have read better Shang-Chi comics, and there's probably a nice collection out there that I don't know to recommend you at this time. But if you're looking for a jumping on point and someone to sort of develop a story, I think this does a decent job enough for you to catch the read or at least a graphic novel.
yeah. I agree. I think it's a solid read if you're looking for to expand uh, what you know about the Marvel universe. This is also a solid read if you know nothing about the character, because it does just sort of start you off. This is a buy if you want to collect for the movie or have that in your collection because that's coming up. Um, yeah.
Cool. All right, moving on. My second pick is Symbiote Spider-Man King in Black, issue number 1. This is a story about a lovely lady. No, I'm kidding. This is a story about Spider-Man is back in black. He's in a symbiote suit, and chaos ensues. I don't want to divulge too much because I want to hear you guys pick or take.
Matt, me or you?
I can go.
All right.
So I was gonna buy this originally because I had seen the King in Black previews in the Marvel preview book that they put out, once every few months. Um, and I was really interested because I love the black symbiote suit Spider-Man, and it really kind of annoyed me that they always had to like come up with a reason for him not to be in the suit because it's so. Um, I don't know. I guess he's kind of overpowered with it, but it's so cool. Like the concept, I always enjoyed. Um, you know, always having the suit on, having it be a living being, I thought was really cool. So it's always disappointing when they're like, "Oh no, it makes him crazy or it makes him evil, so he has to get rid of it." Like, no, I wanted him to stay in that suit. I like the artwork to this. Like I said, I feel like Marvel has some type of internal style guidelines that they're going off of these days, and it makes it so that it's a lot more like classic Marvel books, right? So if you pick up any Marvel book from the '70s, they all have like a feel to them. 2020 Marvel has a feel to all of their books, and I really love that about this. Um, this is sort of a classic Spider-Man story. I feel like we get a lot of him in his head, which I really like. Um, Having that internal monologue going on. I feel like Kang the Conqueror has like he screws up way too fast. Like there should have been something that happened that progressed before it goes totally awry. I don't know if they needed to like shorten that segment to fit it into the story. But I thought that was kind of an interesting concept and like what's going to happen with the Watcher now that he has all of the information from Kang's computer system. Um, yeah, it's kind of a setup for a cool story. I hope that it doesn't spill over into too many issues so that I've got to read like 30 books to get everything. But if this stays confined within, 5 or 10 issues, I'll probably follow it.
Cool.
Okay, so maybe you don't know, but there was a series called The Symbiote Spider-Man that came out last year that went for 5 issues,
Okay.
and you need to read it. Honestly, what you're looking for that you may not find here, you found there.
All
It's
right.
5 issues only. It's a cool arc, and it takes place in that realm where he doesn't know that this the symbiote is alive, etc. It goes Doctor Strangey, it goes crazy. It's got Mysterio, and it all is done in 5 issues. So it's just called Symbiote Spider-Man. Came out in 2019. Put that on your radar, and you can probably get them all collected, but find them if you can. Now that being said, let's go back to this book. Um, so one of my concerns with Symbiote Spider-Man, and was concerned going into that other series, is why do we really need this to be a Symbiote Spider-Man story? Like, what's special about it other than the novelty of the costume? Is there something intrinsic happening? Like in that other series, the fact that the symbiote is there plays very big in that series, right? So it totally makes sense, right? Here, I don't quite see it, other than he looks and his style similar to the guy that he's fighting. When it comes to speak to your conversation about Kang, I think while Kang comes in the future, it didn't look like he was prepared. You never know where in his timeline he came from. He could still be new. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
don't know where his future came from. Also, what do you eat? Who knows the true level of the powers of the Watcher anyway? Like it's not even listed. Like he can come up with 17 new powers tomorrow and you didn't know,
Right.
right? So if
Right.
it's not recorded, Kang wouldn't have any way to know that and would therefore easily be overwhelmed, right, by the Watcher when the Watcher wanted to. Right? Nobody really beats the Watcher, right? So I still think that makes sense. I agree with you on the art style made in the Mighty Marvel manner. This is a lot of what I've been seeing, especially in Spider-Man books. I did like that Spider-Man when he had the special suit because he just wasn't so much. He was a little more not Peter Parker. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
was that in Spider-Man? That Spider-Man movie where he's walking around doing the dance. He's a little more right. He's a little more badass Peter Parker, and that Peter Parker I can like.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I like symbiote Spider-Man, is he wasn't always oh woe is me. I can never get the girl. I can never pay my bills, and I got to sew my suit up at night every night.
Right.
Now that goes away, right? So I think this Spider-Man is interesting, right? I did enjoy the book. I don't know if you need to buy it because I didn't really see anything earth-shattering. This is a decent book and is worth a read already, though. But I don't think it'd be worth a buy unless you were really a big symbiote Spider-Man fan. Because of that conversation of fan service, because it's still Spider-Man, it's still Peter Parker. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering that happens here that makes you think, oh, the world is at stake. How does he get out of this? And then somehow you bring Black Knight and what's this, the raccoon into this. I'm like, is this because remember the old series called Marvel Team Up?
Yeah.
This is Marvel Team Up,
Yeah. I
right?
saw Black Knight on the cover and I didn't really think anything of it. And then when he shows up on the Pegasus at the end, you're like, oh shit.
This is go ahead.
It's still like a, I don't know. It's a crazy moment in the book. She's like, what the fuck?
So if you were a fan, because I really think they should bring that back, and I think they should do a series of movies called Marvel Team Up. That way you could put people together that wouldn't normally be, and you'd watch that.
Yeah.
Right? Like Spider-Man and Rocket Raccoon in a movie, you have to see that movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter what it's about, right? So Marvel Team Up was very good, and Marvel 2-in-1, which had the Thing and somebody else, was very good about finding a story that would bring characters that normally should never meet together and have to fight together. And in that respect, to me, this is a symbiote Spider-Man Marvel team up, and it's worth a read, definitely.
And to do a little callback, this is where we get introduced to Mr. E, which is
Yes.
an awful, horrible, deplorable name.
That
Mr. E.
was probably my favorite part of the book, where he goes, "No, not Smith. I am Mr. E." And then the next panel, Spider-Man going, "Oi, Mr. E, not Mystery Man, not Major Mystery, Mr. E." I don't even know where to start. Like, I love that.
So he did appear back in 1980. Mr. E did in a book called Marvel Spotlight, Volume 2, Number 9.
Yeah.
So this is not his first time, but I guess it was probably his first time because that's when Spider-Man. Now, do you think about this? If Spider-Man was 20 years younger, how old is he now? Right? Are we gonna ever let Peter Parker get to be 50, even 40? Is Spider-Man ever really going to be 40 years old?
So, well, there's the book that I brought, where it's Ben Parker as Spider-Man, right? He's taking up the mantle. Apparently, J.J. Abrams is finally finishing that series, or they're finally publishing it. So
I don't even know what they're trying to get me to get from this, right? It's just like a well, what am I getting? What is it? What's great about this other than it's different? I don't, and it's not that. It's just another, it's the Keanu Reeves Spider-Man. That's kind of it, right? Is there something else?
I don't know.
I don't know that series is worth a buy either, but it's not terrible. It's just that if you only have $20 a month to spend on comics,
Right.
which is reasonable, $20 a week even, right?
Yeah.
The question is, with these comics, these comics make the cut, and I'm not sure a lot of these comics would make the cut if you only had, because $20 gets you what, 4 books, 5 on a good day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, depending on what you're getting. Yeah.
Right. So you can't keep up with all the X-Men. You can't keep up with all the Spider-Man, the Avengers, and if you're into DC or Image, you're done because you kind of, you know what I'm saying. There's no way to keep up.
Yeah.
You got to go. And by the way, I suggest check out your local library, get on Hoopla, and you can read most of these graphic novels legally and free. And I do it all the time, and it's a great thing to use your tablet for. And but you know, if you need to keep up with the Joneses and get all the latest stuff, then come see us.
We
We'll try
should
to help you out.
we should table that and talk about maybe doing an episode where we just talk about all of the different free resources you can use to.
I would love to do that. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
So, all right. Any final thoughts on Symbiote Spider-Man King in Black?
Um, not other than saying I'm a very big fan of Watu, the Watcher. Having him, having Kang the Conqueror, Rocket Raccoon, and Symbiote Spider-Man, all four in one issue, checked off my list.
Yeah, the guy that wrote this, Peter David, he did some cool stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy last year, and I'm trying to think of. There was it was like Silver Surfer, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a couple others. It was like a short crossover series that he did. Um, so I'm kind of curious to see like what other characters show up in this, because he's just pulling them out. He's like, all right, we're gonna do Kang, we're gonna do Black Knight, we're gonna do the, you know what I mean? Like it's just a little random collection of characters, and it seems to work. So I'm totally down for it.
Cool.
All right. On that note, we do have a couple of things in the round table. I've added an article talking about my Star Trek pick. That's an interview with the writer Dave Baker, and he just sort of talks about how there's been good fan reception to the way that he's written the dialogue of the characters, and he appreciates that people are seeing that he does care for the series and stuff like that. So I thought it was an interesting companion piece to it because I think all of us sort of felt that he sort of nailed the tone, at least with most of the characters most of the time. And then I also added a review of Penultimate or Penultiman #2 from AIPT, which I thought sort of mirrored what Emmanuel and I felt about it, but maybe not necessarily what Russ felt about it.
Hell no. I'm a minority here.
And then Russ, you put a clip from Stan Lee.
Yeah, there's actually a video on the page, and I'll put that in the show notes, where Stan Lee says the F word is the most useful word in the English language, and he uses it. Right? When you hear Stan Lee using the F word, you know what I'm saying? And someone created a nice little CGI or cartoon video of him talking in the interview, which, again, I'm going to put in the show notes. It's been sessions with Stan. But the idea of Stan Lee, you know, because you just don't figure Stan Lee is going to use these words, man. So when you hear Stan Lee going, what the fuck? It's just, you know, it's like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're tarnishing the love of my, you know, favorite comic writer or what. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the George Carlin skit where he talks about all the different 4-letter words.
And it's not and it's not like it's a real interview. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. And so I will add that to the show notes. And
It's
I think
always
that's all we got.
awesome seeing these characters who you believe were in a box like in your childhood, like, oh yeah, Uncle Stan, he's never gonna cuss. But then seeing him in Deadpool and the strip club, that was awesome. And then it's like seeing Mr. Tanner from Full House, his stand up, because
Oh,
he
yeah.
actually cusses and his comedy is not clean.
Yeah.
And that was prior to Full House. So even afterwards, he wanted to get off of that image. Like, I'm not a cookie cutter person. Yes, I may be a husband and a father, but like I left the F bombs fly.
Yeah.
So it's great.
All right, so that's the episode for this week. If you missed us live, we do the episode live every week, Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on twitch.tv/cornercomics. But you can always find the archive of the video on cornercomics.net, along with show notes, which include free copies of any comics that we are able to include. The covers, so you can go back and take a look at that. Anything that we talk about on the roundtable, the tail end of the episode, any articles we came across that we wanted to share, those are going to be linked. Like we just mentioned, the video of Stanley saying the F word, that's going to be linked. Let's see. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, thank you very much. We appreciate that. You can find us on all of your podcatchers. YouTube, we're on YouTube. Search Corner Comics. We are on BitChute. You can search Corner Comics there. Trying to think. I think that pretty much covers it, right? All right.
Works for me.
Until next week, guys. Let's end the episode with Excelsior.
Excelsior. By the greatest hero, Snot.